Today we got a good amount more information about Phase 2, and this comes in the form of an interview from Scottejaye that he did with the devs, Ana Resendez and Clayton Stone. This was a great interview, and I will send everybody over to this interview. It's just linked in the description to go check the full thing out yourselves. I'm going to give you some of the major points as well as some of the new news we know that I haven't covered so far about Season of Discovery Phase 2. This includes things like Duel Spec, how many runes each class will get in Phase 2, potentially some of the gear in the new raids that's been adjusted, also how you should prepare for Phase 2 and head on into the next phase to be a step ahead of everyone else. And in Scotty's interview, we also got one of my favorite tidbits just about classic World of Warcraft, something I think everybody needs to hear if you're actually playing this game. So with that being said, let's dive right in. They don't want to pigeonhole you on having to play either different specializations or having to go into something like the raid to find any of the new runes. So you can expect it to be easier to find all of the new runes. You might not have to do something super ridiculous to be able to get all of them, especially something like heading into the raid. They learned their lesson with the Warlock Metamorphosis rune, and they patched that pretty quickly, but even so, they will not be doing this moving into Phase 2. Now, on top of that, Scotty asked them about world buffs, and I know a lot of people either love or hate world buffs in World of Warcraft in general. Well, they're not adding a new world buff to the new STV event, and I think their take on this was a really good one. Some people love world buffs, but some people don't, and having too many is a little bit too much. So here's what Clayton had to say about this, and I'm really glad Scotty asked this one.
You did with Ashen Veil. I'm assuming it's, well, I'll say I'm assuming, I don't know, but is it because there's just no bosses to kill, essentially?
Yeah, so we try to be really cognizant of how many world buffs we're adding to the game. Eventually, after a while, it just becomes too much, and then it starts to feel like they're all required. This is something, thinking about the one from Ashenvale, which was nice, but we don't ever want anybody to feel required to go get every single one in order to be able to do the content that they want to do. And so just stacking another one on top of all the others just seemed like a lot.
And that in itself, I think, is a good thing, guys. You don't have to worry about being overloaded with world buffs. It is a social interaction to go into the world and get them, but you don't have to expect every single phase there to be a plethora of them for you to go out and search for. Another thing about the Ashenvale world buff that everybody hated was that it wasn't boonable, so you don't have to worry about a new buff that won't be boonable. Now, they did also mention that each class will be getting between 6 and 7 new runes. We can expect that to mean that we're getting the 2 rune slots we were basically always expecting, the belt and the boot slot. So you can definitely go in to something like a simulation or something like a 60 upgrades and try to kind of figure out what you're going to be doing with these new runes. You can expect to get a new rune again in your belt and in your boot, but we're not 100% sure. I would not wager that all of those data mined runes are perfect. So just know you can plan ahead, but of course we won't have perfect knowledge of everything as we're moving forward. And they did mention that we will not be getting dual spec, at least not yet. We will potentially be getting it in the future. It's something they're very aware of. Hopefully it'll be something like a gold sync is what they mentioned, but we will not be getting dual specialization. We're all bummed on this one. I really wish I could easily swap to just PvPing and PvE, but we won't have that available to us in Phase 2. Now, the Stranglethorn Vale event, the open world PvP event, is something that will happen on a timer. It is the 3-hour timer. We know when it is going to happen, and this is a purely PvP event. There are no PvE objectives at all. This is 100% PvP, and it is even same faction PvP, but you can opt out of the event. If you're on a PvP server, you still will have to fight against the Alliance or the Horde, depending on whatever faction you are, but you will not give rewards for the actual event itself, even if those people are flagged. So just know, if you are going to do STV at this time, your best option would be just when you know the PvP event is about to start, go and quest somewhere else if you do not want to participate in PvP. Or you can flag it off, but that just means that your same faction will not be hostile to you. You still probably will have to deal with gankers. And the quality of life runes, like druids actually getting a revive and paladins getting extended blessings, these will come from 5-man dungeons, and these are something that should be long lasting in in the game. The devs talked about how some of the classes in classic World of Warcraft, as we know, have some flaws in the actual basic design. Those flaws are not fun towards the game. They don't actually enhance the game in any way or add to the classic aspect or the classic feel. So they wanted to kind of fix some of those issues. And these quality of life runes are something that they are doing to mitigate the issues, mitigate your qualms and frustrations. And they're also saying that they will be listening to the community about more of these. Now, I made a video about quality of life runes, and it looks like almost all of those actually went into the game like months ago. So this is really exciting. And if you have more issues with the way that your class plays or feels, then at least let the devs know, because they are absolutely listening. But I would say, if you have issues with the game, the biggest one I think most people have is about class tuning, class balance. And this is the biggest nugget that I got from this, and I think this is the most key thing that everyone playing classic World of Warcraft should hear.
So we're always talking about the different classes, and I don't want to say class balance because that's not our goal. Our goal is not to be like every single class should feel the same at the same level. It's more about like, is there anything that like completely sticks out that it's making players or some people not having as much fun as we want? So we're definitely, looking at all of those and reiterating through not just next season, but also during our seasons.
And that is a nugget of gold. World of Warcraft Classic has never been a game of pure class balance. No version of World of Warcraft is about class balance. If we take a brief look at the current class rankings at the 99th percentile, but we can even move this down to 95th percentile, there is no class balance. Warriors are by far the strongest class, followed by rogues. This is a consistent thing throughout all of World of Warcraft. If we also look at the top guilds right now, they're bringing 3-4 warriors to every raid if you include the tank or just DPS. And that's something we absolutely have always seen. But it goes a step further into PvP. Some classes next phase, like Shadow Priest or Boomkin, even with Boomkin's changes that happened last night, if you didn't know, Star Surge had its range reduced, so it won't be a 41-yard range, I think 42-yard range. It'll be 36-yard range now for open world PvP. Those classes will be ridiculously powerful in PvP, although they might not be nearly as strong in PvE. Changing one or the other will completely set them out of balance. So there's always going to be a checks and balances system in classic WoW. There's always a rock, paper, scissors system in PvP, whereas a rogue might beat certain classes, but then a mage would beat the rogue or a warrior. If the rogue doesn't have cooldowns, they could never win most of those fights. This is a core aspect of classic World of Warcraft, and I think they're looking at if any classes are significantly overperforming or underperforming, we will see tuning. So definitely expect quite a bit of tuning within the first few weeks of the new season. And with that being said, some classes are simming already, and none of the sims are like perfect yet, for sure, and things will change, but some of the classes are simming at ridiculous amounts of DPS. Warlocks have figured out ways to do ridiculous amounts of damage over a 60-second duration. We can also see warriors are absolutely, let me move my face, gonna be doing stupid amounts of damage, dual wield, and also if you're looking at two-handers. So some of the classes are gonna be stronger than others next phase. That's just a fact of life. But I will try to give you all an estimation of how classes will perform. We'll be going over it on my Twitch stream later tomorrow. Also, this will always change. Everything is gonna change, and I'll try to have you guys updated on those things coming in the future here on YouTube. And if you're worried about your leveling route, especially with the changes to the BFD Raid, where you're now getting experience in the BFD Raid as it is now going to be a leveling raid, I would suggest knocking this out on your leveling journey up to level 40, because this will give you almost a full level at level 25, at least from the current numbers that were data mined. It looks like it's going to be 23,000 XP from doing this, and you can complete this in about 12 to 20 minutes, which is like 10 quests almost, to be honest. This is phenomenal. Everybody should be doing the BFD raid. It will still have a lockout, but make sure you're knocking that out. But if you want a full min-max version of how you can get from level 25 to 40 right away on launch, then I will have that video coming out tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys. Huge shout out to Scotty for this interview. It was phenomenal. And I know a bunch more interviews will be coming out 3 hours before launch time. Like, their embargo will end 3 hours before launch time, which means there's going to be a lot more juicy information in those ones. They can't spoil too many things this early, but a lot more juicy information. We'll obviously watch those live, as well as cover the Race World First to level 40 and BFD live on the Twitch page, twitch.tv/Sarthe. I'll see you all on the next one, and thanks for watching, guys.